Hey, we're live on the internet and unmuted.
Cool.
Hello, Internet.
I guess we didn't really formally say, but I guess I'm the host for this one.
It's however you want to do it. I got us on a roundtable thing because I didn't create a special background.
Fair enough. I will take the lead on this. Hello, everyone. My name is Neysa Does Cosplay, and welcome to our team bonus action, sort of a roundtable recap. Since we just wrapped my campaign of Tears of Kairos last week, we've got one person who couldn't be on voice with us, but he's going to be text typing in. That's Goosehead Jed, who was playing Arten, our Leonin biter bard fighter in the Tears of Kairos campaign, and we've also got the other two folks here at the table as well, if you wanted to do their thing.
Hi, this is Ninja Spence 21. Then that formerly I was playing Zhonya, Embersong the Fire, Genasi Time Wizard.
I am Hewitt. I played Fil'verl Ettin, the Astral Sorlock. That sounds dirty.
No, it doesn't.
And so so I kind of wanted to just before life moved on and we all got caught up in other things and memories started to fade, I kind of wanted to do just a little bit of a recap and kind of hash out. I have a few kind of guiding questions for this, and I want to make sure that if something if I don't ask about something in particular, if we don't talk about something in particular, feel free to jump in on it. But these were just kind of a few questions that I kind of felt were a good summation. So going all the way back, if possible, as best you can recall, how did you think the Tears of Kairos story would end earlier on in the campaign? And if anything, how did your prediction match up to how it actually ended?
All right, I'll jump in on this one first. If we're saying on the very first game, or by the
Or any time in the earliest arc.
okay, by the time we talked to the librarians, I figured we were going to have to let old granddad out. Like I figured out by the library we were going to have to let granddad out the hole. And I just didn't know exactly what was going to be the process. But I knew that we were going to have to let the old man out. That was the earliest that I got an inkling of where the game was going to go.
Okay.
Now, just a disclaimer for like that the audience and stuff there. Whenever we started up Tears of Kairos TBA, Neysa has already been doing Tears of Kairos up at the local shop at A&H, and that I had been a character in it, I believe, for like 6 months before we started, or any time like that. She can that she can basically correct my timeline.
For 4 to 5 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I had kind of so then I basically knew just like what that the whole deal was, but that the way that it was basically going to end, I was still on that same mindset of like, oh, we need to basically collect, all of the pieces together, and then we need to let them out or so.
Alrighty. Do we have Jed attempting a type?
Not yet, but at the same time, he might be
Okay.
dealing with bedtimes and bath
Oh,
times.
yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Maybe. Well, we shall continue onward, and if need be, we can do chitty chats for recap on his end if and when he pops back in, I suppose. My next point of inquiry was going to be, if you had one, what was your favorite in character moment or arc?
You can go first.
In character. Wow, they got a reverb there. That was weird. In character. Thanks, internet, making me sound like a dweeb. Some of the favorite things I had is when we all started messing with Arten and Arten actually getting flustered. Because early on he pitched such a strong I'm in charge persona, and then getting the almost bickering interactions that we all had with him and even with each other. That was fun. Also learning that Arten was not shy about anything with like the sex.
I would say
Got it.
I would say that, basically, that having Zhonya just basically be like just at that, blank, that she had basically got Metroided with Tal'gor and such, as far as in that she had lost all of her memories and got de-leveled back to level 1, essentially, for just the video game nerds out there. But it's basically favorite moment. It is kind of like a toss up whenever then it's just like it is just like whenever that Arten and Phil refer to her as just like a ticking time bomb that can set you on fire. No pun intended there. It's just basically just like, oh, Professor, that you do not want to mess with the professor, that she will set you on fire. She like literally would. But I would honestly say that the whole Waterdeep saga has to be my favorite part, because then I that my entire goal was not to be so so like antagonistic or mom like in a sense, but that those were some that that those were some of the favorite moments to where then it showed a lot of character growth. And then it had also showcased that our struggles as basically, okay, we need to kind of understand each other, because at all three of us, what I had felt like we had our own set agenda.
I I enjoyed all of that as well. I don't think I can say one in particular moment, but for me personally, the fact that I finally had a player character willing to be in a romantic relationship with Erebos, because Erebos is a flirty bastard, and that was top notch for me. That made my night uh, when Arten and Erebos first got together. So, okay, coming down for some constructive criticism or constructive feedback at this point. What do you feel were the story's weak points or things that I can work on as a DM? I know that we've discussed other things off camera, so I mean, you don't have to come up with something new. You could reiterate, but I kind of wanted this to be fair and out in the open of constructive feedback.
I'll let you go first, Spence.
Okay. Sorry that I am eating soup. But anyway,
Is it good
let's
soup?
oh yeah, it's at the Traveler Stew. It has Guinness
Ooh,
it basically has Guinness dark stout, smooth and creamy in it. But anyway,
woof.
then that the good things about the campaign, that I really like the fact of that you pushed us up until the Feywild, to where then that we really didn't have a cleric until the Feywild, and then that we were pretty much a pseudo short rest party. The story and such, it has options for like the multiple branching paths that which will also fall up into that the con that I have a bit about it. And with just me being just kind of just sort of have like experience certain things back and forth between that the shop and that the stream game in particular, it's basically giving me like an insight from just two different perspectives, because I say it to you every single Tuesday night. It's just like, wow, like the players didn't do this, whereas that we did this, etc., etc. I would say that the I would say that the biggest con for me is basically I would have liked to see a little bit more of Zrael in a sense. As in like, granted that the shop game that we did get to explore most of it before we had went on our extra planar adventures and such. And it's basically, like, we get it that the plane swapping up into like established worlds, worlds, worlds and such does just work. But if that you didn't have access to basically, like, just say like all of that the D&D multiverses worlds and such like that, you could basically, what I would basically do is just basically create like dungeons or so up in just Zrael for them to find the shards within Zrael, or else just maybe just create basically like 5 to 6 outlying islands among Zrael that are basically tangents to basically like your Waterdeep, your Ixalan, etc., etc. Because if that you're gonna go with the multiverse thing, for me, I would basically create certain crumbs of those other worlds there, so that way that you are not reliant on like already published material in a sense, so that way whenever that you do release it as a module, it can be something standalone, because that not everyone will have access to like, like it, like to all of the D&D, books and such. And then that, I feel like I have been talking too much, so I am gonna like let somebody else go right now.
I'll echo Spence a little bit on that. I would have liked a little bit more of Zrael. And again, you do want to turn this into a published module, right?
That is the goal. Not maybe not full module, but like a setting. Yes.
I would say that you have everything you need to actually make a fairly decent sizable module, more than just a setting on it. But uh, to publish it, I would have the option to where if you want to do the multiverse hopping, be like, hey, if you want a multiverse hop at this point, this is how it could happen and this is how it could function. But also have it to where they're scattered within Zrael or around Zrael, so that you could also have the option of something that is 100% yours that would not run into any branding issues or copyright material. It's one of the things I'm
Right.
kind of pushing with TBA is that we start doing more homebrew worlds with whatever system we have. That way, there is not an issue with copywritten anything further on other than rule sets, which really can't be fully copywritten. So, I mean, I would have liked to have seen more of Israel because we were there until we dealt with the writing of the Sphinx and going down the Dragon's Gullet.
Mm-hmm.
So, really, the majority of the campaign was elsewhere. And connected to that, if we were going to do the elsewhere, I would have liked a little bit more time. And other, like Waterdeep's the only one we really spent extensive amount of time. That's because of the scavenger hunt nature of it. It would have been cool to get to play around just a little bit more in some of those settings, but we were on a mission. So, and there was a couple times in there it felt a little bit fast travel-y, which I'm fine with, but I'm also like, this whole world was described as extremely dangerous and weird and everything, and two of us are kind of squishy. I feel like Arten would have an issue carrying the two squishies. Now, a positive
Right.
to throw a
Go on.
positive in here, the game was fun. We all had fun together, and that's the key point of any D&D campaign. Is that even if there were moments where the game got a little slow, or some of us started losing interest, or something like that, we all had fun together and were able to pull each other back in. It's something I've had the benefit of when I'm editing video. I get to see when all of us have the ADD kick in and start drifting us off to like left field, and that we would bring each other back in and we were still having fun. The biggest constructive criticism I would give, though, is next time you run this or anytime you run this, give players more of a chance to shine. Give them more awesome moments. Allow them to feel like they had more of an impact, because sometimes some of the stuff that we were doing, since it wasn't going the same way as the story, it kind of got cut short. And this is one, I know Jed's not here to say this, but I could kind of feel the vibe of, I've built a level 10 fighter and I'm not getting to hit anything for like 5-6 sessions. And it was a lot of exposition that was very important to the story, but he made his character to hit things. And I would keep that in mind, because it's one of the things I do in the Monday night game is, I might not hit it every single session, but I try to make sure there's something that allows everybody to come in and have a moment, or over a couple games, everybody has a moment. Like, okay, we got one character that's trying to do alchemy. All right, gotta set that up. One character literally is a second edition player that wants to smash everything that moves, and they're not a bard. So I sporadically have to throw something at him that he can punch or hit with his hammer. And if he hits it with the hammer, there might be a whole lot more things, because the cops are probably going to get called because he's yet to roll below a frickin' 15 in combat. But that's the only thing, is like, make sure everybody has a moment to where they feel pivotal to the story, because D&D is by nature a group storytelling effort. And even if it's a really, really, really good story, if the players aren't 100% feeling like they're, excuse me, I'm having to keep like zucchini burps from happening. I'm sorry. Allow them that moment to contribute or feel like they are, because you got to make sure your players are having a really, really good time and are always stoked, or almost always stoked. So that would be my only thing, is like, try to give, the next time you run this, or when you're still running in the shop, try to give everybody just that little moment to shine, because it will make a world of difference with the players.
Ooh, excuse me. And then that, just to piggyback off one more time, and then that also up in the beginning, because that like that I had said that up in that the shop game, that me and then another player that we had missed that first session, I felt like that the weakest NPC after everything is said and done is actually the queen. She felt like it had felt like she was just a figurehead, and just basically a blank slated queen that basically has no say so or anything like that. Granted that that up in that the grand scheme of things, that it is bigger than just the queen. And then that is
I'm sorry, finish, Spence. I was going to add to what you're saying.
Because then that we have basically talked about this, with just some of the insight that I have because that my brain always just pictured it, just basically not just that, that the gods are like ripping up the earth destruction, but it is also, that the mortals too, that are basically Phinos crazy, and then that they are taking over Drael, and then that they are blinded by this impending apocalypse. That way, I feel like that it'll be a more dynamic storytelling telling as well, because it also gives the party not just one major threat to worry about, but another threat to worry about as well, other than that the big scary sun god that he just needs that he just needs a spanking by just his dad.
Kairos just pulls off the belt.
Granddad from the Boondocks pop up.
Anyway, I was going to say, I didn't really get that from the Queen, but the Queen I took as a quest giver. That was her purpose. I felt was at the very beginning. She's a quest giver, and everything pops off at the right moment while we're on the delivery mission to set things in motion. That's kind of what I got. Not that she's not important. It's more that she's controlling a civic area while there is a group of radical religious folks that she probably underestimated the amount of power they had. Unless Neysa has something up her sleeve to where the Queen was in on it the whole time. But I kind of got that she is.
Well,
I'm trying.
Y'all, yeah, y'all nailed it on the head. And this was actually going to be my next question, was there any NPCs you wanted more information or screen time for? In the shop game regarding when Spence first met the Queen, or did meet the Queen, as the case may be, that was very, very obviously very, very early on in my construction of this whole world and story, and so she really wasn't fleshed out. But the core crux of her is that she is almost just a figurehead in the government. She holds a position that is nominally important and not much more than that. She's a name, she's a face, but she technically holds no real power. And so, but both of y'all are technically right. She is the quest giver. She's the one who kind of just gets the party moving, and then everything else happens elsewhere.
I apologize. My child is
but
putting
she
up
is
an
also
iPad.
just a figurehead. It's okay. No worries.
I was about to start making.
So both of y'all are technically right.
I'm sorry. I was about to start making more noise because he was watching something that had copyrighted music to it. I was about to be like la 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 la.
I mean that. I will say. Oh wait, go on. You finish.
Nope, go.
Oh, that I will say that the voices you give for every character makes them feel more alive compared to my own sometimes, because it's just like, wow, that I really feel this character and such, and then that you do a very good job at that. Like, especially of the fact of that you are running two instances at this, that just as that you basically congratulate me until a certain point that you had said to me, but like, I don't know how in the world that how in the world are you able not to spoil it for Jed or else Miro? And then I'm just like, that's the reason I had played Zhonya as basically such an amnesiac wizard, because truth be told, she was just only a joke character. I mean, that her name literally comes from Zonya's Hourglass, which is an item in League of Legends, a MOBA game that basically allows the user of it to basically stay still for 6 seconds, and you are basically in that you're basically not that you basically can be targeted. But she has actually became from just elevated from like a joke character to basically one of my favorite characters that I have ever played almost. It's just that a little bit more NPCs would kind of like settle it more and just make it feel a bit more grounded. But I do like the fact of checking just into Drell, and then that we are constantly seeing that process of decay, that it just basically just hits that Bloodborne Dark Souls itch for me, because then because that even though that you are not deep into that fandom, your game gives off that vibe. It honestly does. Like, stuff is about to hit the fan whenever that the sky just starts turning just redder and redder and redder, and then that you do an amazing job at environmental stories.
Fine, cool.
I
So
wanted.
aside from the queen, oh, sorry.
I was gonna say I want more of Junk Shop Man. I,
Like
I
the
want.
collector.
The collector.
I want more of Junk Shop Man. Because he's a weird NPC. My favorite are always the weird NPCs. It's like it. Let's see. I think my wife's in another room, but if I say Mixel, I just heard her curse from the
God
back of
dang
the.
it.
I just heard her curse from the back of the house. Um, I love weird NPCs that make little to no sense because they don't have to, but they have like a weird ADD logic to what they're doing. And the collector was that. Uh, I would have liked more of the Tetris uh, quintuplets. Phil would not.
The
Phil wanted
Tetris.
Tetris. There we go. Phil would not want any
The
more to
you mean
do.
the Tenethras?
Tenethris.
Oh,
There we go.
that the
One of them.
Tetris. I would like
Four-Ladrin?
Tetris.
One of them. We'll get to the name eventually when the DM tells us.
I would like Tetris. Wait.
I would have liked more of the
The
Eladrin.
Four-Ladrin?
I would have
Okay.
because that seems like it would have been a sitcom in the making. Phil, on the other hand, did not trust, still does not trust. He might go back just so he can hook back up with the Stronk lady.
If that she is even there still.
They mentioned she came back.
Yes, Rose.
She shows up at the Ren Fair apparently. So that I would have liked more collector, and I would have liked more of the quintuplets because they seemed interesting, and they were also weird. Therefore, I could have handled more of them. Also, let's see, other NPC. I would have liked more Huntsman. He just walked up looking all buff with no shirt and a helmet on. I think Jed wanted some more Huntsman too. I think he wanted to try to do a SmackDown. Unless that is Daryl King, and then no, I'm walking away. I'm not messing with that.
Spence, any other NPCs for you?
Honestly, I would say Old Kai was my favorite Kairos touch out of all of them. That he was just like that, the old man that's just like, I've been through this rodeo before, that y'all are going on this scavenger hunt. That I provide y'all with just this manner. Just, that he was basically very resourceful. Another NPC that I am not going to say the obvious one because it is a cop out and it is a call out to my character. But I honestly love the iteration that you are going with it, especially of the fact of after that what you had told me that I was just like, oh, that's something that I would have probably never thought of because I'm not a big multiverse theory theory type of person, in but in a sense, if that you still use the but if that you still use the Tristana Meadowmoon / Madame Tutorny Snow, I would love to see that be like some kind of C plot to basically have just like because I am a fan of factions a bit, and in that I want to give players the option to be like, wait a minute, I am not just going to just trust the silver arrows all the time. I want to trust these guys to see what that they want to do. Keep my options open, kind of like job hunting. And then at the end, just to piggyback off of like what Miro said, is basically it gives that player the option to basically be like, you know what? I'm not going to do all of the shard things. I want to go up against the party as a heel turn or something like that. And then to me, that creates a more epic storytelling because you know, a player's goals shift over that the course of a character's life that like Zhonya basically had her cup that she had basically had her shift from basically stuck up forgot her memory to basically being a bit more edgy hot-headed, and then that she just became just like depressed. But she had ultimately realized that at the end of it, Arten and Phil are right. She is the smartest person at the time that who can do that. You know, that she had the knowledge and the firepower. Again, no pun intended. But honestly, I have to agree with Miro that the Terniferous are always going to be my favorite because they're just so zany and chaotic. And also, Das has a place up in my heart too. Always does.
No.
Well, Hewitt, on that note, do you have a particular favorite NPC? We've talked about some you wanted more screen time for, but do you have a particular favorite?
Little Sebastard. He got just the right amount of screen time. Let's be honest. He did not need to
Yeah.
have a character sheet. If there had been
Nah.
if there had been a character sheet, tomfoolery
But that is
would
a
have
monster of the week waiting to happen right there.
just. Phil's gonna go back home, and they're gonna be like, "What the hell is that? That's little Sebastard. He's my pet, and he's just gonna be juggling knives while evil eyeing." It's like he says, "I'm back on the boat." What do you say, family? I think I work at time and a half in Little Sebastard as well.
Little Sebastard, the strong man. Okay.
No, I don't think he's a strong man. I just think like Little Sebastard makes everything moderately uncomfortable. Like when you walk into a place that people say is moderately, little Sebastard is hair standing up on the back of your neck in a house you've been told is haunted. Whether or not anything is true about that statement or not, it's just enough that no matter where you go, you feel something slightly off. And what it is little Sebastard in a corner, just staring out at you with those dead eyes, and then juggling knives. And by juggling, I mean just tossing them between his hands and saying he juggles. But he can't speak, so you just know he says you juggle. I don't know. Little Sebastard was my favorite just because he made everything slightly weirder because we would forget he's there and then remember it. And then each one of us had him do something creepier than the last.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Grog's my second favorite because Grog's our boy. We would have stopped the campaign where it was and just gone on an entire crusade to murder whoever killed him.
Right. Because
amen to that.
Lord of Buttons, that the button ending of Tears of Kairos. The button ending.
The Button Lord rules all.
Oh, hey, Finos. I got buttons. What do you got?
Finos is just sitting. I have fire. I have fire. Turns out all these buttons are fire retardant. Welcome to the asbestos
buttons made of asbestos.
Thinking the same thing there. That's how we defeat Finos. Is
Great minds.
We just hold Grog and let him just repeatedly chunk buttons.
Oh God, that Grog becomes a Kairos touch and just starts just throwing buttons.
Oh my God.
I'm button toast.
I cannot begin to fathom.
I will button the void so that the gods are on the other side. I have spoken.
Void buttons. So that gotta be a spell or something.
All right. Do y'all have any additional feedback or things y'all want to talk about? Because that was the entirety of my list.
I'm going to give you something so you can put a feather in your cap because I did give a pretty big criticism. Is at the very beginning of the game, you were not trying to improv and you were not comfortable with improv. And we talked about that off screen about when I realized you had difficulty with that. It made it easier for me to figure out what Phil would do. Because instead of doing something completely zany like I initially was going to with him, I realized there were parameters, and as long as I stayed within them, it was fine. But then you did one of the biggest improvs I've seen you do. When the line was uttered, can we just replace a shard with a Kairos touched? And I watched your eyebrows go up, and I watched you start writing down immediately. which is one of the best. That is one of the best things a DM can ever do. Is I had an idea, and then the party came up with one so much better. I cannot count the number of times I've done that because, like, in the Monday night game, Elvorn was supposed to be a mid boss. He's a ladder climber. He's a shitty dude. He was never designed to be the BBEG. Never. But then the party started hating him so much and not. They went a completely different route and ended up not finding out much about any of the people actually doing the evil. But they figured out that Elvorm was a sack of shit and they hated him and they blamed him for everything and they focused on him. So they made this, I had a dalliance and now I'm not allowed to be promoted higher than I am. In the whole theocracy, the whole thing that my entire life is about. So I'm going to find any way I can to climb up to a position that I feel I deserve. Again, shitty dude. But nothing that any of us haven't had with like an assistant manager. Apparently making the assistant manager in a game made the entire party go, yeah, fuck that guy in particular, which made him so much more important. And then they also made stuff up about him. Like they were just lying. They just lied about it. And I go, you know what? This is going to become true about him now just because that was such a good statement. I love this. Except for the part that he wears pantyhose. He's not going to do that because that'd be uncomfortable under armor.
Nah,
Yeah.
that's not like
Ugh,
not. That's
scratchy.
not like not. That's not like not with that attitude. But anyway. But anyway, then I actually do have one of my own questions for like that, for like Miro, and if that Jed was here, that how did y'all feel whenever that a player that that they had been about 5 months into this campaign and one just iteration did y'all have any type of fear that I might slip up and spoil something for y'all, or let's just talk about through that right quick.
Absolutely not. I had no fear of that. And if you said anything, there's a good chance I would have forgotten it. I know my brain.
Okay, fair enough.
Like
But
I
go on.
literally had no fear of you spoiling anything or being meta. The only thing I knew that you knew how to do that Jed and I didn't was how to play to Neysa's DM style better than we did. And that's not meta. That is, you've played in multiple games together and y'all figured out each other's styles better. I had not played in a game as a player in one of Neysa's games before, and I'd only really I played in one of your games before.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew what to expect from people as a DM towards players. And I knew you would not meta.
Right. Right. And I had basically tried my damnness. That there were some parts like whenever then y'all are basically early on, whenever that it was just at the altar at the gods moment, then that Phil was saying that like that, I don't want to go in there. Right. Then y'all were just talking about it, and I'm just like, oh my god, what are y'all doing? That was inside of my head, and then it's just like, no, stay calm, be dumb. You don't know anything. Just be like, oh, what are you doing? Because that it has been times that I basically let y'all take the lead on purpose, so that way, so y'all can experience it firsthand. So that way, then y'all get that shock value versus me. And then that I will admit that there were some things that Neysa did that had shocked me, especially that I was not expecting Trish to show up out of all people. And then I'm just like, I kind of fangirled on the
Now,
inside a
to be
bit.
fair, to be fair, so that we're not misleading people out there on the internet world. You had given me permission a long time ago before we even started the TBA game that Triss could be an NPC in either the written version or the if in other iterations. Like you'd
That
already
that
given me
is true.
permission to abduct her that way.
That
So like
is
it wasn't
true,
like it was out of the blue.
but it was out of the blue for me because then it was just unexpected that she would be hiding out inside of of Raven's Claw, and just basically just be like, that y'all just basically need to sign this NDA pretty much, and then that y'all didn't see me. But back to like
I was never here.
that, my biggest criticism is because that we are both storyteller DMs and such. Like it isn't it is still similar to basically like letting that the party moment to shine. And even though that we were on a biological clock in a sense, no pun intended, because that we had to rush it for basically that that Freya and then Miro that they are that they are expecting a child, that their brand new daughter. So I can kind of understand that, but for like future like iterations, downtime it that that now that like downtime is something that has to be treasured in games. That there is a reason that I try to basically have a downtime session so much to that the point of basically like letting y'all run amok at the areas that y'all have unlocked as a way for y'all to learn about the world, do the research and stuff. But as I have said many a times, that if that the players don't that they don't catch on the breadcrumbs or anything, it's just like, okay, we get to move on. But at the same time, all three of us can just agree with just at this statement here. Do not be mad at the DM whenever that you are blindsided by something that we gave you the option to research about, and be like, oh, what is that? That we gave you the chance to basically research and basically try to basically at least give them half truths about what is coming up to expect that. But overall, I love the way you had treated Zanya, because then that I basically made her a tabula rasa, a blank slate, and then that all of basically that the gags of her basically being like a wild flower up in college and stuff, I was there for, because that I had to play the straight man versus the two frat boys.
Well, it does not help that you did draw a picture of the professor in a swimsuit that looks like it would have adorned locker room walls. Like I feel like that all of a sudden
Absolutely.
that popped up, and I was like, okay. I hope this is canon, because then Phil will bring it up as a joke repeatedly.
So that, what are you really hiding underneath that suit and tie? Good God.
No, Phil would not do this like
Yes.
that. Phil just would have turned
Right.
around. Looks like we were all young and dumb once, and that somebody needed to make sure they paid off their scrolls. By the way, this was nailed up in the restroom wall. I'm going to give this to you so that they don't have it anymore. Fuck them. Before he got the brain worm out.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, oh, go on.
So I was just going to backtracking just slightly. One of the so a first thing, thank y'all for all of the feedback, both uh constructive for things that need to be improved upon, and uh applause for the stuff that y'all think I did well. Thank you for both. I wanted to go back and address when Hewitt had said that I do struggle with improv type of stuff, and I wanted to make sure that we were being frank about that on the internet here for posterity's sake. It's not that I'm opposed to improv. I love it as a concept, and I do try to do better at it, but it's something that I struggle with in my own brain, because the games we play are primarily audio based. There's words and sentences flying around, and part of my autism is I struggle with auditory processing sometimes. So I hear the words, but they don't start to make sense until I have like a split second or 10 to actually process them and incorporate them and figure out what's actually going on. So improv, in the sense of the player characters say or do something, and then I have to figure out what that has implication for in my own behind the screen stuff, as well as in the immediate moment, I'm unable to process that quickly. But regarding when y'all started talking about replacing a shard with a Kairos touched, that was honestly one of the highlights of the year and a half that we were playing this game for me as well. Because my goal when I started writing this setting and this story, and when this idea started to be born, was I wanted to create something that was just bare bones enough to allow for organic story development and organic solutions wherever possible. And when y'all came up with that idea, it immediately, in my brain, the processing happened like this. It's like, theoretically, yes, that is possible, but is it possible that there's a Kairos touched that I could give them that would be A, willing, and B, capable of doing that? Would it have to be willing? Would it be possible for it to be unwilling? Would the party want to do it if it was unwilling? There was a whole lot happening in my brain. And that's why I immediately wrote down, and all I wrote was Kairos touched sacrifice ? That was all I actually wrote down. But that next week, every single day, it was running in the back of my brain. And within that week, I came up with so YNA did not exist as a Kairos touched until y'all came up with that idea that she fit. And that's what I mean about the organic, development of the story. And so that was literally the best moment of the game for me, was y'all coming up with that and me realizing it could work. And not only that it could work just to kind of wrap the game up so that we could move on because of life things, but that it could work canonically.
And that's why I wanted to mention
so
it was why it's one of the things that I noticed that showed, especially over the course of the game, that you were getting better as a DM and becoming more comfortable with things that normally you are not or cannot process the same way as everybody else. It made me so happy to see you do that, because very easily you could have just said no.
Mm-hmm.
You very easily could have just said no, but instead you went, I'm going to write this down, and now I'm going to figure this out. And I was like, that is one of the best things a DM can ever do.
Mm-hmm. I can 100% agree with what that Miro said, because that you have been my player for my iteration of Stefan Carcass, and in that, whenever that I notice that you have to stop and ask me for clarity, I oblige, because then that's what I have to do, especially to help out, for clarity's sakes. And then that organic storytelling comes best whenever that the player gives the DM that aha moment. Like that, honestly, that I have my aha moments whenever that it basically comes from just that the players itself. And improv is just something that I guess that I get it from my dad a lot, because that my dad is a bit of a trickster, while I'm more of a mixture of both my mom and my dad. It is funny, but I was playing a very stoic character during all of this. So if that you had three zany characters, oh Lord, if that Luther Anderson was in this game, good God help us
No, oh
all.
god, no. The one I'll give you an
The
example
druid,
is John.
the druid,
John
pocket leaves.
John is John is running a Pathfinder 2e game for us off and on Tuesdays. And
Mm-hmm.
Emily is playing Cordell the Flail, a hobgoblin who my character Probs the Gobs calls Gobmom Boss. And then we have Gabo Jones, played by Bosch, and Blitzhack, who is played by Topher, who is a thaumaturgist, a class that does it. So in other words, he has to have items to cast spells, so he intimidated people with a bowl. John has to be ready for anything because we're playing a terrible goblin party. And our spiritual center, our spiritual leader and center is my wife, who is playing a character who has literally no Fs to give. Like, none. Not a one. Might be evil. I'm not sure yet. So, Emily just said evil from the other room.
But yeah,
evil roar is what I'm hearing now.
But other than that, I think that you have an amazing story setup overall. That that despite the criticisms and stuff, that it is honestly a great small first world that I would like to see expanded. Like that these offset islands that you can basically be like that it could be like a island up in for like at the time set where that it is basically just that the pirate thing that you had just going with just like one just iteration, you can like expand off of that and such, and then that you can use that for like if that the shards have to be on Zrael, but as that we have all said that it's still free to basically for like non just stream games or so, you can easily like select any type of D&D multiverse and such because that I know that at the shop we had talked about using a player's homebrew world, and then I think that that'd be a bit too much for just anybody to try to run this because that I know how my world operates, and in that it is crazy as I'll get out. So if I was just giving permission for somebody to basically run it just their way, it would be interesting and also would just be like it will be confusing a lot. So I say that you have handled the planes hopping very well.
Yeah, just that other player's world, it wasn't nearly as expansive as even some of just the like MTG plane shifted stuff. Like, but that's a moot point because she's not a part of the group anymore. So this is something that I'm going to have to workshop. The whole reason that it was structured as a multiverse hopping, planes hopping thing was because the shards aren't supposed to be on Zrael anymore. Each of the 6 Zraelan gods went and hid them somewhere else. And so to make it a self-contained, non-other party copyright, intellectual property stuff, I'd have to come up with that whole internal multiplanar or demiplanar situation. Like I'd have to create my own like domains of Zrael to make that fully self-contained.
I got one that can help you with 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You just make elemental planes that are not copywritten elemental planes. Right. Also, you could go to the dread plane, the dread plane that nobody wants to go to, the evil mirror of Zrael, Dale.
Oh God, the mirror. Oh
no, just go to Dale. And nobody wants to go to Dale for anything.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, I know a Dale that's actually a really good dude, but it's just like, why do you not want to go to the realm of Dale? Listen to the name. That's Natty Light and Puka Beads. That's right there.
I mean that you can even do what I did go on. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I haven't ruled it out that I just know that it's going to need workshopping and iteration building and so like it wasn't something that I could do then. It is something that I could do now, and that is because I had the opportunity to play with you guys. So thank you.
Right.
That was where I was going.
No problem. I mean, then that honestly, that to piggyback off of like Miro, just like create your own elemental planes. That I had created my own Underdark, the Umberlands, where that y'all fought where that that y'all had fought Draven, that the Drider sacrificer dude or whatever he was, and then that I had created my own Feywild that is basically the 4 seasons in a sense.
You could
No
also
pun.
talk
on.
to Topher about creating pockets of the Feywild. We went to fucking Sonic the Hedgehog land. No. Okay, one of the players, because of the delay of the Sonic the Hedgehog first movie, every day from the day they announced the delay until it came out, he drew a different Sonic in MS Paint. One of which was Sexy Squidward as Sonic the Hedgehog. That was my favorite. I tried to say, I won't lie, I tried to save that boy. It did not work. There was also Sonic the Chunk Hog. That was just Fat Sonic. It was so wonderful and so terrible at the same time. It was, and Chris introduced iframes into the game, which messed my character up because I was a fighter. I had multiple attacks, which meant if I did damage on the first one, my other 3 didn't do shit. And it took a 60 HP boss that should have been just done and over with, and made, because it lasted like the second one of us hit, it would be until the start of that that target's next round.
Oh wow!
And I was like, oh my god, and it was one of those. It was so annoying, yet it was so great when you realized what the theme of the world was. I told him never do it again. So he did it again.
But yeah, I mean that we are glad to able to just help you out, in a sense, and in that I give you feedback almost every single Tuesday night, and in that I have seen you grow over the past 2 years as a DM. Compared to I am coming up on my 10th year. Miro probably has me beat by a long shot.
1998.
Yeah, that you got me beat by a long shot. I was still probably just watching whenever like Nickelodeon used to do Slime on TV and SpongeBob first premiered. God, what a year! But anyway,
I started DMing the last year that the Golden Harmony dub of Dragon Ball Z aired at 6 a.m. on Fox. That's how old and how long I've been DMing, is when Goku was named like Gary and Krillin was Bongo.
I vaguely remember that.
You don't. Go ahead and get rid of it. Replace it with the knowledge of how to calculate Thaco. That's what I try to do.
Math is hard. That math is dumb. But
where's Mufasa? We never go there, Simba. We don't go to Thaco.
Right. But honestly, that it has been a blast, and then I can't wait for the shop game thing, because that I know that the shop game is going to be just amazing. I am not going to say much much else about that. It's just that one just thing in particular that you will always be improving as a DM. We are both storyteller DMs. I know that we want to tell our story, but it's also let the players decide. And then that I have took this feedback to heart, and then that I have made Stefan Karkas a lot better. Duel of Souls still sucks. No lie.
Duel of Souls does not still suck. I love Duel of Souls. I've been so much money in Duel of Souls.
Duel of Souls is a terrible place that should be avoided at all costs by every individual.
Oh, that Hog Paw would hate this new iteration. He really would.
But they've got new machines in the casinos, and you can earn so much money with these one-armed bandits. Like, I rake it in. I don't know what you're talking about.
They have created an artificial permanent poverty class based upon their concepts of how society should exist, and that's bullshit. That is Hogpaw's understanding of Duel of Souls at the last game. I remember he's like, hold on, y'all. Everything in this city is structured in this manner. Yes, it is. So you set it up so them always poor. Yes. Fuck this place.
But it had basically went deeper than that, just to basically kind of get off tangent a little bit. That there is a new gang in town called the Sanguine Skulls, which is basically that they are
No, there's
basically
not. We got rid of
not
them.
anymore, because then that you used a bag of bombs to basically blow them up. But that's
We
just
blew
a
them up.
fun thing.
You done messed with the Bloods. You in trouble now.
Oh well, pun intended. Pun intended there. But yeah, that it's just basically like that. I share many tools that I have found over the years, like the settlement sheets. What helped me out a lot, and basically world building. It's just something that we all have to take time to do. But it seems like that this can be. How would you rate this, Miro? Because I will rate this as a like a beginner to intermediate DM game. That if that I was basically first getting into D&D, and then would be like Lost Mines of Fandelver. Nobody wants that. Tears of Kairos. I want that.
Now, if you're talking about who would get more out of this game than other folks, if it was to be made into a module, I would say more newer players, especially due to the build up at the very beginning. So this is definitely one for beginners. My brain just shut off on where the rest of that
That's
thought
fair.
was going. Jason Derulo
No,
just came in and yeeted
that's
that idea
fair.
straight out my head.
Jason Derulo.
No,
But
it's
at the same, go on.
sorry.
You
It's
just
inside joke with me and em is that there's one time I was talking to her, and then all of a sudden that Jason Derulo song that goes doot to doot to doot to doot to doot 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 played in my head, and whatever I was thinking shut off. I probably did no justice to it, but that song played, and then my entire brain shut down and did a Windows reboot. And my wife goes, "What happened?" It was like Jason Derulo just got rid of my idea.
I mean that
Who knew that
if
he was a Cthulhu?
if I had to basically change up one thing only, I would basically do just a slight glimpse of a hint early on. Make the DC be like 25 to 30. Well, no, 25. And basically have it to where that there
That's
is some,
high.
well, because then that, like most players are going to try to min max you and try to basically break their DM and all of that. But then that's a topic for like another time. It's just basically, if somebody gets that high threshold, do a secret note. Say, for example, that the tavern caravan that they are traveling with, and then that they see basically a shadowy figure inside a glimpse of like an exposed mirror that somebody had on their person or something, just to kind of put that bug in their ear about something about something. It isn't much, but it is
That,
just but all of this
yeah.
is just it is just enough to get the players wondering, because that me and my old but that my whole that my whole silver arrows nonsense, and in that I always throw it out at y'all like y'all pretty much almost met every single silver arrow, but y'all have been the first
Yeah.
party to not be interested in that. But I would just say do that, and then that your players will be like, it will throw them on just the wildest goose chase that will give you time to basically mess with them enough to basically let them make those mistakes and then come back and be like, oh, that's why we don't like mirrors.
You never like mirrors.
No,
You
I
should
like
never.
that.
You should never like mirrors.
I like that idea. And again, full disclosure, the Kairos touched with the connections to the mirrors and everything, they didn't really start taking full shape until sometime last summer. So almost a year after I started working this whole story up. Um, I had like the vaguest idea of them, details, and not all of the like abilities and aspects. that they could have. So that's a good idea. Thank you.
No problem. And in that, if this was a video game like a Metroidvania, I will be all up on this game. Uh,
Okay. Anything else before we kind of wrap this up?
No.
Not for my end. I said everything I wanted to say.
Okay. Then, because I failed to mention it when we started, I'm going to mention it now. This month and the next month or two, or no? Are we switching in June with our next quarter, or is it July?
July's the next one, so June will.
Okay. So for the next couple of months, we are supporting OneTreePlanted.org as our charity of the quarter. It is a global network of collaborative groups that literally every dollar donated plants a tree in a reforestation project or in forest expansion projects. It is quite wonderful, and we must appease Persephone because it's her time above ground, and we don't want her being angry with us when she goes back down below, because then Daddy comes after us, and that's not okay. So you can find out more about that either going to OneTreePlanted.org directly, or you can find their links on our social medias and or websites. And for all of that information, I will say thank you and turn everything over to Hewitt.
Wouldn't uncle be a more appropriate term in that situation?
Don't start.
Anyway, socials. We are Team Bonus Action on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, and on the Instagrams. We are we are at bonus_team on Twitter until that burns to the ground. We're checking out some alternatives. We are also go to teambonusaction.com and check out our website made by our very own Fricky V. So that's all that. As for stuff that's going on, we got Kitchen Table this weekend, and after that, we're going to be silent for about 2 weeks because Frecky and Kaloum are getting married, and I'm performing that ceremony, and I'm the one who usually streams everything. So I'm going to be busy, and they're busy. And a lot of the rest of the tangential edge of the crew that are not in the room with us are also going to show up too. So it'll probably be quiet the next couple weeks. We will have something coming back on Thursdays, but it'll be online. We got to see who all can participate in it. Hopefully we can get Goosehead Jed, because as you can see, when he tries to do stuff online from home, it does not always work out because he is the father of 3 and daddy is always needed. So that's what we got. And since Knox is not here, go let your meatloaf. Hey, that one wasn't terrible.
It wasn't terrible.